So, is $1 million enough these days? Is $500,000? I mean, with a big mortgage and young kids in the house, you've got to ask yourself this. Kind of a morbid thing to bring up, but if you were to die, would $1 million be enough for your family? That's what we're going to discuss in this video. Stay tuned. Hey guys, how you doing? Jack the Life Man here, where we make life insurance simple. And in this video, we're going to discuss, is $1 million enough these days? Is $500,000 enough, in fact? So why don't we just jump right into it? If you're looking for a quote, feel free to just visit my website. You can get an instant quote right away. But the first thing you want to do when you speak to your life insurance broker, obviously, is $1 million enough? You're going to want to do a needs analysis. In fact, these days the government is making it, they're mandating that every broker do this. And I think it's a very good exercise. But one of the key portions of the needs analysis that I always find really super interesting and creates a big reaction amongst most of my clients is when we discuss and I pose this question: if something were to happen to one of you, all right, because the other person died, how much coverage would you need and for how many years? And typically the measurement, the rule of measurement that is used in the needs analysis is income. So for example, I'm gonna give you two sets of income here. One is, hopefully you can see this, one is 100,000 and the other is 50,000. So suppose you're making either 50,000 or $100,000 a year. It's probably backwards. We're going to multiply that by 70%. And we do that because we're assuming that it's taxed. So you're left with either 70K or 35K a year. And so that's where that question comes into hand. You're going to ask them, how many years would you need that salary? Remember, you may have a big mortgage, you may have young kids in the house, and now you only have one salary left. And I speak from experience because my mother-in-law actually went through this, and it's not easy, right? So if you have a $70,000 salary and you ask your spouse that question, would 10 years be enough? Would 15 years be enough? Would 20 years be enough? I mean, these are questions you need to ask, right? You're used to a certain lifestyle. Your children are used to that lifestyle too. I mean, of course, you can modify it and you can adjust and you can adapt to it. But if you plan correctly, hopefully you don't need to. Hopefully you don't even need to run into any of this, but hopefully you don't need to. And usually when I ask this question, it ranges between, the minimum, which is 10 years, but, quite frankly, most people are going to want, 15 or 20 years. They're going to want the longest possible amount to get that income. Who knows, how many years it'll take you to get back on your feet emotionally. So if you do the numbers, you're looking at either 700K, about 1.05 million, or 1.4 million, okay? And if you're doing it for the 35K, you're looking at 350,000, 525,000, or 700,000, all right? Like, these are the numbers. So you're looking in the range for a $100,000 salary, you're looking between 700 and 1.4 million. Do you have that right now? And if you don't have that, what's holding you back from getting that? If your salary is at 50,000 and you're between 350 and 700,000, do you have that coverage right now? And you want to ask yourself, really, there's no barrier to entry here. It's not that expensive to get. The other thing to note is that we're not even talking about the mortgage yet. So you have your mortgage is not factored into that. Your funeral expenses are not factored into that. Your emergency fund and your children's education is not factored into that. So all of these things obviously will increase the amount of coverage. So I answer this question. I don't truly believe that $1 million is enough. Maybe it's the minimum that you should have. But if you're at $500,000 in coverage, you seriously want to question each other and figure out a way that you can, grow that coverage at least for 20, maybe 30 years so that your family is amply protected. just my thoughts and a way of looking at it, and a way that, it becomes very clear when you discuss it with your spouse. And I always urge you to have that private discussion. Look at each other in the eye and say, listen, if something were to happen to me, how much coverage would you need and for how long? If you're interested in getting a quote, feel free to visit lifeman.ca. You can just click on the quote button. I'll send you an instant quote, and you'll see it's not as bad as you think. The other thing to pay attention to is that it can be discounted. So if your health is, better than average, you might get a preferred or a super preferred rate, which might mean, anywhere from a 5 to 25% discount, depending on how healthy you deem to be in the insurance company's eyes. The other thing that I wanted to mention was, some of the things that are holding you back are they're quite frankly just excuses. The fact that you're scared to do the medical, they make it super easy. The nurse will come to your house. You can talk to her a few minutes and get comfortable first. They know what they're doing. And price these days, there's ways to manipulate, the term and the coverage amount so that you can at least get some coverage to make sure that, in the very least, you have $500,000 in coverage. I would encourage you to have way more than that, depending obviously on your salary. But complete the needs analysis on your own, and you'll see what you really need. Thanks a lot. I hope this gave you some value. Feel free to contact me anytime with any questions that you have. Take care, guys. Bye.